It was becoming a sport of who is the greatest contortionist, who can bench press the most weight for 1 inch. Coach Greg, and new rules for the bench press. No longer are we able to cheat. That's right, those excessive arches and ridiculous ranges of motion, they're now banned. And so for the next 3 months, people can set ridiculous records arching their backs, moving the bar 1-2 inches before they can no longer do it ever again. And so what exactly is the new rule? Well, the elbow joints have to be below the shoulders. Before this rule was in place, all you had to do was lower the bar, touch your chest, pause it, and press it up. Problem is, some people with amazing genetics, flexibility, or perhaps gymnasts were able to arch their backs so extensively that the bar had to only move 1, maybe 2 inches. The result? Outlandishly high bench presses that no one respected because, well, they called it cheating. It wasn't cheating because by definition they weren't breaking the rules, but in everyone's minds, this was not a legit bench. People want to see the most powerful lifters press as much weight as they can. They don't want to see a gymnast lay back on the bench, place their feet on it, arch like crazy, move the bar 1 inch. What's the point? It's not even a bench press at this point. It's simply unracking the bar and pressing it in. And so arches became so ridiculous that people were losing interest in watching the bench. What's the point? If I can't arch like that, I can't compete. And this new rule came with overwhelming positivity. Everyone seems to be happy about it, except the people that no longer are going to be able to bench press those crazy weights. And for the most part, it's women. Sorry, girls. It's mostly women and smaller guys. People in the lower end of the spectrum, the smallest weight categories, they seem to be the ones with the most flexibility, and they're also bench pressing with ultra wide grips. In powerlifting competitions, you have to cover the ring on either side. And so the smaller you are, the shorter your arms, the wider your grip. And with a wider grip comes an even smaller range of motion. But this rule doesn't just affect the smaller lifters. It also affects the morbidly obese individuals with the T-Rex arms. A powerlifter, by definition, may touch the bar on the chest or stomach. They can't touch the belt, but you can quite literally pause the bar on your belly. And so if you have a huge stomach, and you lower it to your belly, your arms might not be breaking parallel. And so my analogy is this. Consider bench pressing now to be synonymous with the squat. The judges are going to have to judge the depth of your bench press. If there isn't enough range of motion and the elbows don't break the top of the shoulder joint, it's not a good lift. Even if you lowered the bar, pressed it perfectly, lifted it to full extension, if there wasn't enough range of motion, too bad. And so if you're morbidly obese, have a big belly, you bench on your stomach, but your elbows don't go low enough, it's not a good lift. AKA, it's cheating. And so what will this do? Well, it's going to bring back the integrity of the bench press. No longer will it be a sport of who can get away with moving the bar the fewest amount of inches. And so as you can see, the guy's got a wide grip, a mega arch, and he only has to press the bar about 2 inches. And you thought I was a man with T-Rex arms. I currently have the world record in the Masters bench press, but even me, at just over 5'6", I had to lower the bar a lot further. I may not press it as far as the guy over 6 feet tall, but at least it looks somewhat like a bench press. And so my personal opinion, what I would have preferred to do, rather than having to judge the depth of the elbows in relation to the shoulder joint, is I would have preferred them to force the lighter lifters to use a closer grip. Think of it, if you're holding the bar out this wide, you do not need to press the bar as far. But if you're forced to grab the bar more narrow, you have a much greater range of motion. And so my personal opinion was the rule should have just been that the lighter weight classes have to cover the rings with more than one finger. And so rather than covering the bar with the index finger, perhaps put on the center ring for medium-sized weight classes, or even the pinky ring for the lighter weight classes. And so rather than grabbing very far, they're using a closer grip, and this would much more resemble a normal bench press. This would eliminate the need for what's now going to be very subjective judging. Think of it. The judges are going to have to now watch the bench press and determine if the elbow went far enough down. That is going to be hard. How many times have we seen people squat, get the lift, only to rewatch on video and say, that wasn't low enough. How did they count that? And so my prediction is there's going to be problems with the judging. Some lifts are going to count, some are not going to count. Perhaps they should or shouldn't, but it's going to be up to the judges to determine whether or not that lift should count. And listen, it is very difficult to judge depth in powerlifting. You might think it's easy, but it is not. Was the bench press low enough? Was one arm lower than the shoulder joint, but not the other? And so we may in fact see lifters pressing the same weight 3 times in a row. Perhaps the first 2 times they don't count it, and the third they do. Yet they went the same distance on all 3 times. And so it does make the bench press a lot more subjective, but what could they do? They had no choice. The bench press was getting out of hand. It was turning into a sport of who is the best gymnast, who doesn't have to press the bar more than 2 inches, and that is a person that's going to win. And if you're not great at bench pressing, you can't understand this, consider this. If you only have to lower the bar 2 inches versus 12 inches, does it not stand to reason you're going to press a lot more with a small range of motion than a large range of motion? The same thing applies in the squat. If you have to break parallel, it's a lot harder than doing a half squat. And so in the bench press, many of the athletes were getting away with only doing 1/4 bench presses. They were hardly moving the bar. Whether it's because they had a massive arch or a massive stomach, they were getting away with cheating the bench press by reducing the range of motion to only 1 or 2 inches. And so the strongest athletes, they were no longer winning. It was becoming a sport of who is the greatest contortionist, who can bench press the most weight for 1 inch. And so what are we going to see at the world level? Well, we're going to see a lot smaller bench presses. In particular, the lightest weight classes, and for females. A lot of girls lifting well over double their body weight due to excessive arches, no longer going to be able to lift this much. They might see their bench press drop 50 or even 100 pounds. And with this new rule in the bench press, and remember, this is in the IPF, in other federations, you can still do whatever you want. But in the IPF, the most popular of all the federations, how long is it before they cancel the sumo? Year after year, more people are converting to the sumo deadlift, especially in other sports aside from the IPF, where they use a deadlift bar, one that has a lot greater bend. In the IPF, the bar is a lot stiffer, it doesn't bend as much. In other federations with a deadlift bar, it's longer and bends more. If you use a hook grip with a wide stance sumo deadlift, you can lift the bar 3-4 inches before the weight even comes off the floor. End result, people lifting 4 or 5 times their body weight, lifting sometimes even over 1,000 pounds using the sumo deadlift. And a lot of people, understandably so, are saying sumo's cheating.
Well, they consider it cheating because it is cheating.
And so my personal opinion is that the sumo deadlift and conventional deadlift, they're 2 different lifts. Sure, they're both lifting the weight off the ground, but in 2 different ways. And so just because you're good at one lift doesn't mean you're good at the other. Obviously, I'm biased towards sumo deadlifts because I'm better at them, but doesn't mean I don't understand what people are talking about. In my opinion, the best deadlifter would be the athlete who's the best at both. Imagine, if you can deadlift 1,000 pounds sumo and 1,000 pounds conventional, that's 2,000 pounds. To me, that's more impressive than somebody who could say do 1,050 pounds sumo and only 800 pounds conventional. That would be an 1,850 pound total. But perhaps there's no time in powerlifting competitions to do all those lifts, but wouldn't it be fun to have a deadlift competition where it's the addition of the 2 lifts? You do the sumo and the conventional on the same day, with the winner being the one who totals the most for both. Thinking that's a stupid idea? Coach Greg, you have stupid ideas. That doesn't make sense. Ever heard of Olympic lifting? Did you know that they do something called the snatch? Not that snatch, the snatch, and the clean and jerk. They add up the total for the 2, and that is your Olympic champion. Literally in the Olympics. And so if you think it's a stupid idea, to find out who the best deadlifter is, there's a sumo deadlift and a conventional deadlift. That is 2 different deadlifts. If you add them up together, may the best person win. And so let me know in the comment section, are you in agreement with them changing the rules for the bench press? Should they eliminate the sumo? Should they combine sumo and conventional together and determine who the strongest deadlifter is by adding up the total of both? Also, want to support me and my channel? Please consider getting Harder Than Last Time supplements. Some include creatine, protein powder, pre-workout, G-Shred, G-Test, G-Skims, G-Whiz, everything. Just go to the website. I can't list it all here. Also, training books, cookbooks, circle, diet book, coaching plans. But me and my team, subscribe, click the bell button, comment for the algorithm, like the video if you liked it. Don't forget to please watch a bloop. And until next time, bench, deadlift, squat, I'm out.